some young girls in Ghana are trading sex for money to be able to purchase sanitary towels. This devastating revelation comes from a survey conducted by Send Ghana, a non-governmental organization whose research has revealed that some ladies in some parts of the northern Ghana, southern, and some coastal areas cannot afford sanitary pad and they engage in sexual activity. There's more in this report.
According to a 2023 BBC study in 6 African countries, a woman in Ghana earning a minimum wage of $26 a month would have to spend $3, or 1 in every $7 they make, to buy 2 packets of sanitary towels. That means for every 80 cedis they earn, they have to spend 11 cedis on pads alone. A latest study by Send Ghana also reveals 70% of young ladies in the country are unable to afford pads because they are expensive, forcing them to exchange money for them. Patricia Akwa is a student activist and member of Send Ghana's research team.
The findings that blew my mind was where girls have to exchange, go in to have sex with their male counterparts for them to get money to buy this sanitary products, because I never knew this was really happening in some communities. So we got to the grounds and then realized that, oh, so this is really happening in some communities where other people can easily afford, not everyone, but then other people have to put their lives at risk by having sex, where they are exposed to a whole lot of risks like STIs and then UTIs. But then because they have to use the pad, they have no option than go in for the sex and then get the money.
Working under the theme, Send Ghana shared the findings of their research report. Key among the findings were that, to help curb this situation, they want taxes on sanitary pads to be scrapped and for the product to be reclassified from a luxury product to essential medical need. Also, that government in collaboration with GES should intervene by providing sanitary pads in schools.
Our recommendations are very simple and straightforward. If disposable sanitary pads are expensive, and it is caused by taxes imposed on them, scrap off the taxes. Because when you do that, it will help reduce the prices for them. And the government has classified them as luxurious goods, something which is a natural phenomenon. And it should even be classified, it's not a car. So the taxes being reduced is one of the ways. And secondly, it should be reclassified and be called as a necessity, essential necessity materials for them. I believe that when we see them in that prospect that they are medical necessities and they are very essential, it will help them as the reclassification goes on, reduce the taxes too. So if we can share textbooks freely, we can share sanitary pads freely to them so that they will feel that comfort when they are going to school.
Period poverty is having negative effects on young ladies psychologically and in their education, and to some extent, their social lives. Send Ghana, working under the theme Menstrual Silence, unveiling the hidden struggles among adolescent girls in Ghana, is calling on all stakeholders to join in the fight to liberate young ladies from this canker.
Right, so joining us for more on this is Latifa Abdul Hadi. Latifa, you're welcome. And of course, Isaac Jetro, youth advocate and researcher. Isaac, you're also welcome.
Thank you very much.
So what did you find in this search? I mean, alarming outcome, people trading sex for sanitary pad.
Okay, so I'm sure that someone somewhere might feel that we were just saying it, or it's just something that occurred to us, but we were on the field. We administered questionnaires, we had face-to-face interviews, and then we had some key informant interviews too. So during those interviews, we spoke to some of the girls, and then they told us that sometimes that is what they have to do in order to be able to purchase a sanitary pad.
So therefore, they are left on their own around these periods?
Yes, they are. Because let's say a household income is like 50 cedis or 100 cedis a month, and then they have 3 or more female children, and they are all menstruating in the same month. And now a sanitary pad costs 17 cedis, 18 cedis, and some are even 20 cedis. So a household that's has an income of 100 cedis needs to buy like 3 different sanitary pads for their 3 females, it's a difficult thing to do. So if their parents are not able to provide for them, they tend to fall on that other measure to be able to get a sanitary pad.
So Jethro, is basically about affordability.
Yes.
And the fact that their parents are unable to afford it.
Yes.
So how you treat yourself during that menstruation period is entirely your business. Is that what you uncovered?
And some parents actually said that when they are having difficulties in providing and the girl child comes home, brings a sanitary pad home, it's glory to God because they realize they are helping them reduce some of their financial burden. And as to how they got the money to buy, they don't really find out. Because at the end of the day, what we need...
It probably will be quite obvious to them.
Yes, and a young lady said if her mother has already budgeted for what to buy with the money in the house, I mean, budget is closed. And unfortunately, she realized she's menstruating. And the mother have to use the food money to buy sanitary pad. And it's not possible to go hungry and use money to buy sanitary pad. So they rather go out and then do what they have to do to get the money to buy the sanitary pad because it's needed. So that's what goes on.
And I guess this is more pronounced in poverty endemic areas, because I've looked at the regions that, I mean, you brought these findings, and basically the coastal and the other areas. So for urban areas, the situation might be different. Is that the case?
Okay, I'll not say like very, or maybe there is a vast difference, but then it is a little bit better. Because during our interview in the northern region, there is a village we had this interview in, and then we realized that because of how expensive sanitary pad is, there is this store, a provision store, that sells one piece.
Just one out of the pack?
Just one, yes. They just remove them one. They sell it for 1 cedis in the northern region. But
my understanding is that for a lady to have a very, I mean, to have it in a more comfortable way, you might have to change it like 3 times in a day.
Yes. Yeah.
And so maybe 3 times 5 days of the week, then you are talking about 15.
15 cedis.
Yes, and then the affordability become an issue.
Yes, please.
And so for such people, if they are unable to afford and they don't want to engage in sex in return for sanitary pad, how do they survive during the day? Did you get that information too?
It will amaze you to know that some people go as far as using socks to absorb their menstrual blood. Shocking, right?
Right.
But it's happening. Some people use socks, others use rags, and others even use leaves.
Grass.
Leaves to absorb their menstrual blood.
So menstruation is becoming a very expensive venture.
Very, very expensive.
For a lot of young ladies.
Some parents are able to tell you that the disposable sanitary pad is what they need because that is quality and it helps. But if she is not able to buy for the adolescent girl, she goes to cut her they term it clean clothes for them to use. And we don't know how clean that will be. And with that, they can't even go to school because it might shake, it might shift, and they will stain themselves. And that brings in stigma and other related issues. So they are able to stay home and they are missing school. School hours, some of them go to school and low concentration. And it's affecting their education. Because we're looking at period poverty, we are not only looking at the affordability of the menstrual product. We are looking at wash facilities and the education as well. So even if there is affordability of menstrual product and there is no wash facility, there is no better education, educating them, we are still poor in terms of their period. And these 3 findings we noticed in this 6th district that we lack in all these 3. So it looks like Ghana is purely periodically poor. And that's too serious.
We will come back to recommendations going forward. But I just also want to find out, in researching into this, I mean, has there been pregnancy as a result of people engaging in what they thought was good for them to keep their personal hygiene? Has there been reported pregnancies as a result?
Yes, there has been a whole lot. Because when you fall on that measure, I mean like a man buying sanitary pad for you when you're on your period and then he demands for sex in return, it is possible for you to get pregnant when you have sex, or when you don't even have knowledge that you need to protect yourself in order not to get pregnant and all. We recorded some cases like that, yes.
And people are also refusing to go to school because of the stigma that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, because when the clothes are not really, should I say durable, if that is the right word, because when you use a cloth, it can shift, and then you can stain yourself. And when you stain yourself and someone sees it, you might be made fun of. So people avoid going to school when they are on their periods till they are done because of the stigma.
So the end game to this exercise is what? Mr. Jethro?
Well, like we rightly said yesterday, we know that the import duties, that is 20%, and the VAT 15% has a hand in this, and the high cost of living, because if you can't buy it, you can't use it. So we are calling on the government to scrap off the taxes.
I think my viewers are saying that they can barely hear you, so if you can speak up small for me.
So we want the government to scrap off the taxes on the sanitary products for the adolescent girl to be able, because about 95% of our research stated that that is what they use, because it helps them avoid washing blood. And when they use the reusable, they need to wash. So if the government scrap off the tax, they will be able to purchase. And aside the scrapping off of the taxes, we are asking government to also look at the infrastructure aspect of it. That's the water, sanitation, and hygiene. You realize you go to schools and only about 33% said they have this wash facilities in their school. And even with
most schools, there's none.
There is none. And even with the schools who have the wash facilities, it's not conducive. One school stated that they had a janitor who used to work and it was running, but government is not able to pay her anymore, so it's closed down.
So they're on their own?
They're on their own. So a girl will come to school, and if she's menstruating, the teacher will say she finds her own way of changing. And that's not conducive enough. And others who have it too do not have water flowing, no dustbins, nothing to help them when they are menstruating and they go to school. So she rather prefer to stay home. So when they improvise the infrastructures and then build more, change rooms, and then build separate washrooms for them. Because I can't feel comfortable changing and a guy barges in. So they have separate change rooms.
And I don't know whether your checks also looked at that to look at the affordability aspect of it. Because if you are not, if the tax is on importation, and then the local industry said that we can meet demand, the question is about cost and whether the people can afford.
So we've heard of the zero tax
on
the locally imports, and then waves that they want to scrap off to help. But that was on paper. The implementation, we've heard it's been made, but practically, sanitary pads are still expensive. So until we see, so it's one of our recommendations that the Ministry of Finance and the GRA should speed up the implementation process. If it has been, there should be an evaluation stage where we will know prices have been reduced. Until then, we can't stop campaigning for a reduction.
But let me find, are there other recommendations you want to share with us? Plus also, what role you think that parents must do in these circumstances?
Okay, so adding up on the recommendations, we believe the government should give sanitary pads to school. There should be sanitary pads in school, like in their first aid boxes, because period is just something that can happen to any girl at any time, and we might not know when it will come. So it should be part of the first aid boxes in school. And then I believe the parents...
Every school?
Yes, every school. It should be free. Free. Every school should have access to sanitary pads. And then I believe parents should shy away from the fact that they don't want to talk to their kids, especially the fathers. They don't want to talk to their kids about menstruation and personal hygiene. Because I believe if parents really talk to their kids about menstruation and menstrual hygiene, the teachers wouldn't even need to come in, or they wouldn't have to depend on their friends for information. And some of these informations are not even accurate.
Right.
So, yeah.
Jethro, how the final word?
In calling on the government, I think we all have a role to play. The media, individuals, the religious bodies. If we are able to speak about LGBTQI in our churches, we can equally educate people on this as well. Let us all put hands together. I was like that. Initially, I couldn't talk about these issues.
Yeah.
But when you have the education, more of sensitization, we will know that there are issues that we all have to come on board. So if the whole population will put hands together, I think we can all fight this and fight it in the right direction.
All right, Joshua and Hadi, thank you very much for passing through.